Okay, starting your sprang. Well, you start by warping your threads. I'm going to assume that most of you know this, but I'll repeat it once more. Sprang is a form of braiding where the threads that you work with are attached to two fixed points. In my case, that's going to be the two rods on my loom. Now, if you look at the literature, and in my case, I will mostly look at the book, The Technique of Sprang by Peter Collingwood. It's always explained in the same way. Also in the other books that I know, the Dutch titles, same principle. They work with this safety line or safety threads. Principle of warping is very easy. All you've got to remember is over, under, over, under, over, under. And by that I mean this. You're going to start by putting your thread over the safety line and then under the rod. Going back down over the rod. Under the thread, over the rod, going back down, under the rod, over the thread, under the rod, over the rod, under the thread, under the rod, and so on. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of them. I'll do one more underneath the thread, over the rod, under the rod, over the thread, under the rod, over, under, over. Now you always got to make sure that you have an equal amount of threads at your bottom layer as you do in the top layer. And then I'm going to attach it not with a tight knot but with a loop, because I want to reattach it real easily later on. 4 threads in the top layer, 4 in the bottom layer, and you're ready to start your braiding. Now again, this is the way it's described officially in the books. If I'm making a small piece of sprang, I do it a little differently, and I wanted to show you my way as well, because I don't use that safety line. So let's get rid of that for now. Untie this, and I'll show you how I normally do this. Again, not always. You just put your line over the top rod from underneath, coming back to the forefront, going down, moving to the back of the bottom rod, back up again, over the rod. It's, to me, the logical way to wrap a thread around, well, in this case, these 2 rods. 4 in the top, 4 in the bottom layer. Make sure the tension in the threads is about equal. Doesn't quite look the same though as it did, because really I'm not done yet. I'm going to start my first bit of braiding. I'm going to pick up the first thread, the one mostly on the right of the bottom layer, moving it up. This top thread layer takes its place, so that's moving down. And one by one, you move the threads from the bottom layer to the top layer. Now if I attach this safety line, I do have the exact same thing as I did just before when I did it the official way. One problem with this though, you can accidentally misplace one of your threads at the top or bottom row as you continue wrapping. So you got to check for that. I would advise, if you're doing a complicated piece of sprang, a very large piece of sprang, or you're working in a very thin thread, use the official way of wrapping with the safety line in place right at the beginning. If you're making a smaller piece and you think you're comfortable enough to get away with it, you can just as easily do it the way I just did. It works a little faster, but again, it's a personal choice, I guess, so have your pick, choose the way that you like best.